Disciplining your thinking is one of the most powerful skills you can develop in life. Every action you take begins with a thought, and every habit you form was once an idea you accepted in your mind. If your thinking is uncontrolled, your life will feel the same way. But when your thoughts are disciplined, your life begins to align with purpose, direction, and peace. Many people believe their thoughts control them. But the truth is, you have the ability to guide your thinking. The mind is like a classroom. Whatever you allow to be taught there will eventually shape your behavior. If you allow fear, doubt, and negativity to sit in the front row, they will dominate your decisions. But if you intentionally train your mind with wisdom, faith, and truth, your outlook on life will change. Disciplining your thinking starts with awareness. Pay attention to what you think when things go wrong, when you face pressure, or when you feel uncertain. Do you immediately assume defeat, or do you look for growth? Education begins when you question your own thoughts instead of accepting them automatically. Not every thought deserves your agreement. Next, understand that discipline is built through repetition. Just as the body grows stronger through regular exercise, the mind becomes focused through daily practice. Setting time aside for reflection, learning, prayer, or reading helps shape a mindset that is calm and intentional. Over time, your thoughts will naturally move toward clarity instead of chaos. Another important principle is learning to replace negative thinking rather than simply trying to eliminate it. An empty mind will always be filled by something. When a discouraging thought appears, respond with truth, gratitude, or faith-based perspective. This trains your brain to seek solutions instead of surrendering to fear. Faith plays a vital role in disciplined thinking. Faith teaches patience, trust, and long-term vision. When your thinking is guided by faith, you learn not to react emotionally to every situation. Instead, you respond with wisdom. Faith reminds you that growth takes time and that challenges are part of development, not signs of failure. Finally, remember that disciplined thinking leads to disciplined living. When your mind is focused, your actions become intentional. You make better choices, manage emotions wisely, and walk with confidence. Education, discipline, and faith working together will shape not only how you think, but how you live. Everyday awareness is the very foundation of change, especially when it comes to disciplining your thinking. Until you are fully aware of what occupies your mind, what thoughts dominate your inner world, and what patterns you unconsciously repeat, you cannot hope to exercise control or bring transformation. Awareness is not a passive observation. It is an active engagement with your inner life. It requires honesty, intentionality, and a willingness to examine your mental habits without excuses or denial. Often, people go through life reacting to circumstances without ever realizing how much their thoughts influence their emotions, decisions, and behaviors. They blame outcomes on luck, other people, or external situations, when in reality, the blueprint of every action and habit began as a thought they either nurtured or allowed to dominate. To develop awareness, one must first learn to pause and observe the mind as it works. This is not about suppressing thoughts, but about noticing them, categorizing them, and understanding the impact they have. It is about asking yourself what kinds of ideas you entertain on a daily basis, what your default mindset is when faced with challenges, and how much of your thinking is constructive versus destructive. When you begin to notice recurring patterns, such as fear, doubt, negativity, comparison, or resentment, you take the first crucial step toward change. Awareness illuminates the blind spots in your thinking. Many people are unaware of the subtle ways their thoughts dictate their behaviors. For example, a person may repeatedly think, "I am not good enough." And without conscious realization, this thought influences their confidence, effort, and relationships. Until they bring that thought into awareness, they cannot confront it or replace it with a healthier, more productive mindset. Awareness is like turning on a light in a dark room. Once the room is illuminated, you can see what is cluttering the space, what is misplaced, and what requires attention. Similarly, when your mind is illuminated by self-awareness, you see which thoughts are beneficial and which are harmful, and you can take deliberate action to redirect them. Cultivating awareness requires practice. One effective method is journaling, where you write down recurring thoughts and examine them objectively. Another method is meditation or quiet reflection, where you intentionally observe your mental activity without judgment. Even prayer can serve as a tool of awareness when it is used to seek clarity, understanding, and insight into your own thought patterns. Awareness also involves recognizing triggers. Certain situations, people, or environments may consistently provoke negative or unproductive thinking. By becoming aware of these triggers, you can develop strategies to respond differently. For instance, if social media always leaves you feeling anxious or inadequate, awareness allows you to set boundaries, adjust your perspective, or consciously choose alternative actions. Awareness is not about perfection or eliminating negative thoughts entirely. No one can control every mental impulse at all times. Instead, awareness is about noticing patterns, understanding consequences, and making conscious choices about which thoughts you will nurture. It is the difference between being carried by the current of your mind and steering the course of your life. Once awareness is established, it naturally leads to accountability. You begin to take responsibility for your thinking because you can no longer claim ignorance. You recognize that many of the obstacles in your life are not purely external, but are connected to the way you perceive and interpret circumstances. With awareness, the power to change shifts into your hands. Awareness is also intimately connected with time. Most people operate on autopilot, reacting to the present without reflection. Awareness introduces a pause, a space between stimulus and response, allowing the mind to evaluate the situation before forming an opinion or taking action. This pause is critical for discipline because it prevents impulsive decisions driven by unchecked emotions or habits. Awareness teaches patience with oneself. When you first begin observing your mind, you may notice repeated patterns of negative or self-defeating thoughts. It can feel discouraging, but awareness is not meant to produce guilt or shame. Instead, it is the first step toward mastery. The more you observe your thoughts without judgment, the more you understand their nature and the ways you can redirect them. Awareness also deepens understanding of the connection between thought, emotion, and behavior. Every feeling you experience is preceded by a thought, and every action stems from that feeling. By becoming aware of your thoughts, you gain insight into your emotions and the resulting behaviors. This chain of understanding empowers you to intervene before negative patterns manifest into harmful actions. Awareness creates a foundation for intentional thinking. Once you are aware of the thoughts that dominate your mind, you can intentionally choose which thoughts to encourage and which to discard. You can replace fear with faith, doubt with trust, and negativity with gratitude. This intentionality is the essence of disciplined thinking. Awareness is the gateway to transformation. It allows you to step out of unconscious habits, challenge limiting beliefs, and reorient your mental energy toward purpose, growth, and faith. Without awareness, any attempt at discipline is likely to be superficial and unsustainable because you cannot control what you cannot see. Finally, awareness is a lifelong practice. The mind is dynamic, influenced by new experiences, challenges, and information. Maintaining awareness requires regular reflection and vigilance. By cultivating a mindset of awareness, you build resilience, wisdom, and the ability to navigate life's challenges with clarity. Awareness is not a one-time achievement. It is the continual act of observing, understanding, and directing your thinking in alignment with your values, purpose, and faith. By embracing awareness, you take the first and most crucial step toward disciplined thinking, transforming your mental landscape, and ultimately shaping a life that reflects intention, clarity, and growth to every action you take, every decision you make, and every outcome you experience in L. Ife is rooted in your thoughts. Your thoughts are not just fleeting images or passing ideas. They are the blueprint for your behavior, the compass for your choices, and the invisible force that determines the direction of your life. Many people underestimate the power of the mind, believing that circumstances or luck dictate their path. Yet the truth is that what occupies your mind consistently will manifest in your external reality. Thoughts are the starting point of everything. They influence the words you speak, the attitudes you adopt, and the habits you form. For example, a person who repeatedly thinks of themselves as incapable or unworthy will unconsciously limit their actions, avoid opportunities, and often settle for less than their potential. Conversely, a person who trains their mind to focus on possibility, growth, and purpose is more likely to take bold steps, embrace challenges, and achieve meaningful results. Understanding that your thoughts shape your direction begins with examining the quality of those thoughts. Not all thoughts carry the same weight. Some thoughts are fleeting and harmless, while others become deeply embedded beliefs that guide your life. A thought like "I can learn from this experience" may lead to perseverance, improvement, and confidence, whereas a thought like "I will never succeed" can become a self-fulfilling prophecy, creating barriers and discouragement. Awareness of your mental patterns is therefore critical. By observing the content of your thinking, you can identify which thoughts are constructive and which are destructive. Once identified, you have the opportunity to redirect your mind toward ideas that empower rather than limit you. Thoughts are intimately connected to perception. The way you think about events, people, and challenges influences how you interpret them. Two people can experience the same situation yet respond in completely different ways because their thoughts frame their understanding. A person focused on fear, comparison, or criticism will perceive obstacles as insurmountable and opportunities as threats. Meanwhile, someone whose thinking is disciplined, positive, and faith-driven will see the same obstacles as challenges to overcome and the same opportunities as doors for growth. This demonstrates that your thoughts do not merely react to reality, they actively shape it. It is also essential to recognize that the mind often operates like a garden. Whatever you plant, nurture, and feed will grow. Negative thoughts are like weeds. If left unchecked, they spread, choke out positive ideas, and ultimately dictate your behavior. Positive and purposeful thoughts, however, are like seeds of potential that, when cultivated consistently, bear fruit in the form of success, resilience, and peace. Discipline in thought is therefore not juice tea about avoiding negativity, but about intentionally planting and watering ideas that align with your goals, values, and faith. Thoughts shape direction not only through your conscious decisions, but also through the habits and routines they inspire. A person who consistently entertains thoughts of procrastination, doubt, or indecision is likely to develop patterns of delay, avoidance, and stagnation. On the other hand, someone who cultivates thoughts of focus, accountability, and action will naturally develop habits of productivity, efficiency, and intentional progress. Your mental environment directly influences your external environment. Faith and belief are crucial elements in guiding thoughts toward productive directions. Believing in your ability to grow, adapt, and overcome challenges strengthens the mind's capacity to navigate uncertainty with confidence. Faith acts as a stabilizer, allowing you to maintain focus on constructive thoughts even when circumstances are chaotic or discouraging. It also shifts your thinking from short-term reactions to long-term vision. When your thoughts are disciplined and aligned with your purpose, you begin to notice patterns in your life that were previously invisible. Opportunities that once seemed coincidental now appear as results of deliberate thinking and action. Challenges that once seemed overwhelming become manageable as your mind evaluates them through a lens of problem solving and faith. This demonstrates that thoughts are not passive, they are active participants in shaping your life's direction. Language is another dimension through which thoughts shape direction. The words you speak are a reflection of your inner thoughts and, in turn, reinforce them. A person who constantly verbalizes doubt, negativity, or fear strengthens the presence of those thoughts in their mind. Conversely, speaking words of affirmation, encouragement, and purpose reinforces constructive thinking. Your mind and your words are interconnected, creating a feedback loop that determines the trajectory of your life. Moreover, disciplined thinking requires intentional filtering of external influences. The media you consume, the people you associate with, and the environments you inhabit all introduce thoughts that compete for your attention. If you do not actively choose what enters your mind, you risk adopting thoughts that divert your focus, undermine confidence, and misalign your direction. Protecting your mental space is as essential as nurturing it. Thoughts shape direction in subtle cumulative ways. Small, repeated mental habits accumulate over time, eventually determining character, decisions, and destiny. A person who cultivates consistent optimism, resilience, and clarity will naturally move toward growth and success. Conversely, someone who entertains fear, doubt, and resentment will often find themselves stuck, frustrated, and off course. Understanding this principle emphasizes the importance of daily mental discipline. Your thoughts are the steering wheel of your life, guiding you either toward your dreams or away from them. By becoming aware of this power, you take responsibility for your internal dialogue and begin to harness it intentionally. Finally, it is important to remember that shaping your direction through thought is not an instantaneous process. It requires patience, persistence, and consistent practice. Each thought you entertain is a building block in the structure of your future. By choosing to focus on constructive, faith-aligned, and purpose-driven thoughts, you gradually direct your life toward meaningful outcomes. The mind is not merely a passive observer of life. It is the architect of destiny. The direction of your life is determined not by circumstances alone, but by the quality of your thinking. By cultivating awareness, discipline, and intentionality in thought, you gain the ability to steer your life in the direction of purpose, fulfillment, and faith-driven success.